A very good afternoon. Welcome to the west coast of France, to Les Sables d'Olonne, home of the Vendée Globe. We're live today with our English broadcast, and at the top of the show today we have Charlie Dallin moving clear at the top of the fleet on a Pavia. He is moving clear of Thomas Rion, who's in second. They've been fairly slow paced. There's been quite a few jibes in the last 36 hours. Meantime, Alex Thompson was on the night shift last night, continuing the repairs on board Hugo Boss. And our guest today is none other than Dee Caffari, sixth in the 2008-2009 Vendée Globe, when that was the epic edition. 30 boats started, 11 finished, and Dee has been around the world 6 times. So Dee, welcome to you. Hopefully we can catch Dee, but we have Pip here though on the line. And Pip went across the equator yesterday. She's having a fantastic race, and interestingly enough, she's keeping Arnaud Boissier, who raced all the way around the world with Dee, and Pip is keeping Arnaud behind. Pip, how are you today?
I'm really good. I'm having a good day. Last couple of days have been difficult. I've really been suffering with the heat. I got quite dehydrated, but today I'm on form.
And how did it feel to get across the equator yesterday? A big moment in the race.
Oh, it really is. You know, it just, you know, I kind of mentally, I've divided the whole race up into segments, and that was the first one done. And yeah, it's just amazing to cross the equator. And now, you know, we were on a bit of a drag race south. And sort of, you know, the next milestone for me, I think, will be making that first jump off down into the South Atlantic at the bottom of the St. Helena High, which looks a bit complicated at the moment.
But and how are you feeling today? You were tired, a little bit emotional a few days ago. You seem to be in good form now, into a good rhythm.
Yes, yeah. It's, you know, I guess that's one of the things with this race, because you know, you're changing weather systems, and you need to get used to a different pace of life, different expectations of what life brings and means. And I don't normally suffer with the heat, but you know, this living accommodation, this space here in Medallia is tiny, and there is no ventilation. And yesterday it got up to 39 degrees inside here, and it makes it so hard to do anything, and I struggled with that. But I've adapted now. Human beings adapt. That's the great thing about us.
And you're staying hydrated. How much water are you drinking just now?
So yesterday, not enough. Today, I've already had 3 litres with electrolytes in them to try and recover from yesterday. And yeah, not to be too crude about it, I'm watching the output in the bucket, and that's the telltale sign.
Listen, Pip, we've established a connection with the south coast of England now with Dee Caffari, and here's Dee to speak to you.
If I want to say a huge congratulations, you are doing a phenomenal job, and you've just got to keep it going, girl. I'm so proud of what you've done so far.
Oh, thanks, Dee. I mean, I actually am. I'm surprising myself. You know, I set out to you know, do the best I possibly could in this boat, and to be where I am now is just phenomenal. You know, and you keep thinking, oh, it's just a blip. It's just a blip in the matrix, and yet, you know, the boat keeps going, and you've got to feel sorry for my boat, because it's 20 years old, and I think she thought maybe she was going for a nice gentle last lap, but no chance. I'm beating her.
That is fantastic. That boat can really deliver. So you just need to hang on, keep working her hard, because both of you are doing a phenomenal lap of the planet. You're in a great position, really good competition around you. So keep showing those boys your heels.
Thank you. Yeah, I think actually, so by the looks of it today, I think Callie's he's gonna sneak away from me now, because they've just, by the looks of it, sort of, you know, there's not a huge amount for us to do on this stretch tactically. You either decide to stay high and bank some, or you just push off a little bit. And it looks like Callie and Manu have decided to put off a bit, and you know, we can see they've got a bit of extra speed, while me and Didac are staying a bit higher. But I've been fiddling around this morning, and I found an extra half a knot, and I keep glancing up at my instruments here, just trying to try and keep that pace on. I'll give it the best shot I can.
That's right, and just don't lose heart with the foils if they overtake you. Use this time in the consistent conditions that you said you have to just kind of get your boat sorted, enjoy the rest, look after yourself, and then you can just prepare for that next section, which is the Southern Ocean. So absorb the heat because it's going to get cold down there.
Yeah. If only I could bank it somewhere, that'd be quite good.
Listen, Pip, great to hear from you. Fantastic job so far, and we'll speak to you in a few days. Keep up the good work on the medallia.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thanks both of you. Bye, Andy. Bye, Dee.
So big smiles on board Medallia today. Let's look at the rankings today at midday. And as we said, Charlie Dallin on top of the table. He's now 56.8 miles ahead of Thomas Riong. He's made about 11 miles this morning, going just a little bit quicker, getting into better breeze. Jean Le Cam in third, 280.8 miles behind, hanging in there very nicely. Kevin Escoffier in fourth. Yannick Besthaven up to fifth. Boris Herrmann in sixth. He is only 2 miles behind Yannick Besthaven. Sebastian Simon up to seventh. Alex Thompson was still quite slow. He's only doing about 1.6, 1.8, something like that knots this morning. Louis Burton and Sam Davis. Now they're losing miles to the leaders because they've jibed and are heading south in 9th and 10th places. Giancarlo Padotti in that battle with Damien Seguin and Benjamin Dutreux, all quite close together. And a little bit further down the table, we move to Pip Hare Alan Rura in 18th. Going well, he's been quite quick relative to Roman Attanasio in front of him, and also Clarice Kramer, who he's chasing. So Alan is the fastest of that group recently. Pip Hare we just spoke to. She is 8 miles ahead of Arnaud Boissier. Arnaud Boissier, of course, sailing Mike Golding's old boat with foils. And I say Pip is about 8 miles ahead, and she is moved clear of Didac Costa, who's 22nd on One Planet, One Ocean. Only about 20 miles between Manu Cousin, Didac Costa, Arnaud Boissier and Pip Hare. So that little group of four all having a good race. Further down the table, Ari Husela we spoke to today. He's about, 20 miles now behind Miranda Merrin. Miranda in 27th. And Kojiro Shiraishi, we spoke with him today. He's completed all his repairs. He's going reasonably steadily, but he's not so good just now. So first of all, let's talk to Dee Caffari with our first question. Let's open with our internet question for you, Dee. Dee, what surprised you most about this race so far?
Well, the fact that it feels like we've had about 4 weeks of action in the space of 2. It really has been relentless for the sailors right from the start. We don't expect anything else from the Vendée Globe, but what has really surprised me is how the non-foiling boats have really been mixed up with the foiling boats. I think that surprised a lot of people. They've been tactically really astute, and they've had some great races. There's some real surprise people come to the front that are sailing phenomenal races. And it's only just begun.
And that's good for the race and good for IMOCA.
It's fabulous. It really shows the fact that there's still 32 boats in this race, and we're 2 weeks down. And in previous editions, we've seen a lot bigger drop off. So it really shows that IMOCA have put the work in. The race organisation have put all that preparation in for the safety. And it also is really evolving some new and interesting stories and letting us talk about some of the sailors that probably go under the radar a little bit. So there's some really good small races within the big race, and it's a lot to talk about.
And what's the view of Alex Thompson at home in the UK just now? Is it big news?
Huge news. Alex has a huge following, as we know, on a global scale, but he's communicating so well this race. He seems really confident and really relaxed and very happy in his boat and what he's doing. And the communication is coming across brilliantly, even down to the last few days where we feel like we've lived through this devastating broken boat that he's now fixing. we feel like we've all done it with him because he's shared it all. And that's quite unusual. The Alex of previous editions of the Vendée Globe would not have done that. So there's a huge kind of push to encourage him to get back out on, get it done, get it racing again, and get back to the front of the fleet. He's done a great job, and a lot of British and global fans are supporting him all the way.
I mean, in a way, there's a measure of good luck in the fact that this has happened in the South St. Helena High in the South Atlantic, where he is in light winds, and he's had the opportunity to repair. It just makes it all the more enchanting and engaging, doesn't it?
For sure. I mean, if you were ever going to have a disaster, he's had it at the perfect time. He's not in the Southern Ocean. The conditions, the boats around him were going slowly, so no one's got away in huge amounts. So he had the conditions to facilitate the repair. So yeah, it really has all landed perfectly, and I just really hope that he has the confidence in his boat for heading into the Southern Ocean.
I hope so too. We spoke with Charlie Dallin, very, very impressive on his first Vendée Globe, but somebody who has 5 La Solitaire podiums, and this was Charlie this morning.
It's a great feeling, but you know me. I like to stay to keep my emotions as stable as possible. So I don't think about it too much. I just keep going, and I do the same as well when I'm not so well placed. Because if you go too high in emotions, there's the risk that you will come back down at some point. So I just don't think about it really. I just do my job and keep going. But yeah, of course, I'd rather be here than in the back for sure. It's extremely complicated situation we are in. I was not expecting to have I was expecting the South Atlantic to be like this. I was more expecting like a long surfs, long front surfing, record-breaking speeds, but it's not the case at all. So now we're trying to negotiate our way to the south, to the more stable winds. But it's a long way, and it's not an easy way. The models are not so good in this area. They change a lot from release to release, and also they're very different when you compare them to each other. So yeah, it's a bit of it's a tough nut to crack to find what model to trust and where you want to go.
So Charlie Dallin, he was saying that he really wants to keep his emotions in check as much as possible, a nice level emotional mindset. How difficult is that in that situation, and also in the crisis situation? What's your advice to sailors in general?
It is difficult, and the temptation is to use all this energy in expressing your emotions, but actually you've got to keep that energy for doing something that helps you move forwards. So Charlie's got a really measured approach. I did laugh because a couple of days ago, he did an interview where he was really frustrated that he hadn't attacked Storm Theta as aggressively as Alex had, and he'd lost miles. And he was beating himself up a little bit. But as we've seen, it takes a couple of days and those places change. And Charlie doesn't know how to not be on the podium. So he's exactly where we expected him to be. And he's doing a great race. But this South Atlantic is really testing all of them. So they really do need to just keep their emotions level so that they don't use up any of that extra energy unnecessarily.
And meantime, the masterful Jean Le Cam is just chuntering along under the South Atlantic High, just doing what he does best.
Well, he is savvy. I mean, there's a reason he's won 3 Figaros, and this is his 5th Vendée Globe. He's good at what he does, and he's giving us lessons in how to sail the shortest distance and perform and get a good result. I think he's really kind of made some of the young guns look up and take notice.
And who else has impressed you in the race so far, obviously, other than Pip?
There have been so many people that have really surprised me and had great races. I think the first week, Clarice Crimmer not only communicates brilliantly, but had an absolutely amazing start, almost to the point where she couldn't quite sustain that intensity. And I think she's found her rhythm now and seems to be in a really good position with the boats around her. Benjamin Detrot on his boat, Damien Sagan on his boat, and I loved the story of him and Jean Le Cam sailing together near the beginning because they'd worked together on their projects. That was a really nice moment. But there's been some phenomenal
Let's do the internet question.
performances. So it's really had me glued to the screen. My productivity has dropped massively because there's so much to watch in this race.
I wish I could say the same thing, Dee. But our second internet question for you. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced as a woman in the world of sailing?
Oh, it's a tough one to answer that because I have never really kind of looked at myself as a woman in the world of sailing being different from a guy in the world of sailing. And I think what we see here in the Vendée Globe with 6 inspirational, phenomenal women doing great races is that they're on exactly the same boats in exactly the same weather, in the same oceans, doing the same thing, and they're doing it really well. And I think what we've seen for our sport is that for future generations, they need role models and inspirational figures to aspire to follow. And we've got 6 great women in this edition of the Vendée Globe doing exactly that. So it's exciting times. Change is slow and our sport is historically quite traditional, but it's evolving and we're moving in the right direction.
And I think the key thing with the 6 different women is they've all got such different stories, from Pip Hare to Clarice Kramer. Clarice Kramer was only in the minis about 3-4 years ago, but she's really pushed her media profile. She's incredibly talented, so she's come up that way. And then you've got Miranda, who's come through the ranks and really served her time doing all the different ocean races, and this is her pinnacle.
That's right. They all have their unique stories and backstories. They all have different levels of funding in their projects, and they all have a different era of boat. So their story is throughout the fleet. And we've got Sam as a potential podium winner, and we've got Pip doing a phenomenal job in one of the oldest boats in the fleet. So there's that whole range in there, but all of them have a genuine passion for what they're doing and are communicating it really well. So I'm really hoping that we've got girls out there looking to these women and being inspired for the future.
And what's your message to them in terms of the pathway? How can they get there?
I would say that there's no one way of doing it. Some of these girls go through the mini, go through the Figaro and build themselves up. Some people get a great opportunity. There isn't a right and a wrong way. If this is something you want to do, then you kind of need to forge your way forwards and have that dream as a focus and help it to become a reality. We all got there through different means, so we can show that it is possible, but it's an amazing journey, and you just need to surround yourself with the right people that believe in your dream as well to help you get there.
Indeed, Dee. Come back to you in just 1 second. Let's look at the fleet, our fly through of the fleet this morning, starting with Alexia Barry, Miranda Merrin and Clément Giraud, Ari Husela, who have just come out of the doldrums. We can see them milling around and going in different directions there. So they're through the doldrums. Then we're with L'Occitane, Armel Tripon, now making better progress down to the west of this group. We have Manu Cousin and co. moving down the fleet now. Still Stéphane Le Deraison very much out on his own. In the next group we see we have 3 boats and then five boats. Alan Rura, Maxime Sorel just in front of them in that little packet. Then Sam Davis and Louis Burton. Louis Burton is just out of shot there, but we hopefully should see, we just see Louis Burton there jibing away, making a more direct route down to the south. Alex Thompson there, very slow and completing his repairs, but still in the group. That's the essential thing for him. Not losing too many miles. Jean Le Cam there just coming, slightly readjusting, coming down from the more northerly position, positioning himself in front of Kevin Escoffier. Thomas Riong and Charlie Dallin, I say they've done about 12 or 15 jibes. And then up there we see Jeremy Bayou coming down to the Cabo Verdes and flying back to where we started with this group at the doldrums. So that's our fly through the fleet just now. Dee Caffari, have you been looking at the weather for this little group getting down to the Southern Ocean at all?
Oh, definitely, every day. It's quite funny. I was sailing at the weekend at home and I had no idea what the weather forecast was, but I could tell them exactly what was going on in the South Atlantic. It's been fascinating because we normally expect in this area for them to jump on one of those low pressure systems from Brazil and ride the train to the Southern Ocean. And that's where we get our 24-hour records quite often. Yet there's been absolutely none of that. And they're having to work really hard, which is probably not what they expected in their build up and preparation before they head into the Southern Ocean. It's quite complex down there.
And it's a fairly complicated picture. We're just watching Charlie Dallin just trying to break through. And then you've got Sam Davis and Louis Burton who have jibed to the south going the longer route. And they'll come round the back of a high pressure system. This high pressure system is moving quite fast. So there's really two routes. And there shouldn't be too much difference between the two when they get down onto the train of low pressures.
That's right. The hard thing for Louis Burton and Sam Davis there making that decision is it's really hard to break away from that pack that you've been sailing with. You want to stay with the other boats, but if you're electing to go the other way, you've got to commit to it. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in that no wind area of that high pressure. So they've made that decision. And I think they're probably either hoping that the others will come with them, or as you say, they're going to meet up down the end. The models are quite interesting because what we see isn't always what actually happens on top of the boat, as Boris Herman alluded to in the recent video where he was like, well, I shouldn't have no wind, but I've got no wind. So it's really frustrating for them. They're having to sail in what they see and plan, and they're having to work quite hard for it.
And Charlie Dallin saying the same thing in his audio there, that the models are not adding up, and you spend so much time at the chart table looking at the latest grid files and the scat scans and so on, but he's doing a great job. One sailor who has a problem, who told us this morning, is Sebastian Destremo, has a problem with the hydraulics supporting his keel rams, and this is Seb's news this morning. So it's a little bit bizarre this morning, and he was, or last night, he was sailing along.
Le vent, voilà, permettait de virer de bord. Là, il y a tout qui a pété. Donc,
it was a little bit strange. Things started going awry.
Parce qu'il y a énormément de pression sur ces machins. Il y a vraiment des tonnes et des tonnes. Donc ça vaporise, on appelle ça vaporiser.
And then he had this problem with the hydraulic oil suddenly vaporized, he says, out of the rams, and now he has his feet in the oil, and the keel head is moving around. He does say he has a solution. He's going to cannibalize a different pipe, but certainly a difficult times for Seb. The fortunate thing for him, as he says, is in the doldrums or he's in light winds. It could have been much much same kind of situation as Alex Thompson in terms of the best place to have a crisis is in light winds, Dee.
For sure, because what you want is the boat to be as stable as possible. Hydraulic oil is awful down below and it gets everywhere and it's super slippy. I remember carrying a small bottle of Coca-Cola so that I could help clean it up because it just seems to get everywhere, and the last thing he wants to be doing is trying to have his footing in a slippy environment with the boat heeled over, trying to control the top of that keel. So he's got his work cut out for him. Hydraulics is not an easy topic. It's not normally one of our strong points, but we have to be a master of all the aspects of the sailing boat, and the hydraulics is a horrible fix to make happen.
Indeed. So what's your own plans just now, Dee? You're racing inshore very much, looking at
yes,
two-handed.
Yes, I've kind of gone from the team back down to towards the solo sailing. With the COVID world that we're living in now, short-handed sailing seems to be the way forwards, and we've been very lucky in the UK that a lot of the racing that's been permitted has been double-handed. So I've joined forces with a British guy, James Hereda, and we're doing some double-handed sailing. Really enjoying sailing a 33-foot boat. It's a lot of fun. We've done a lot of racing this year, given a year where we didn't think there'd be much sailing. So we've been really lucky and looking to campaign that forwards next year with a Fastnet in sight. And
all the time your small boat sailing skills improving and enhancing your overall skill set.
Definitely, it's kind of bringing together a lot of my world, and I'd say from 2008 when I did the Vendée Globe, I've had a few laps since then, 3 more laps since then, and a lot of other sailing, and it's really kind of grown my ability and my skills. So I know if I went back out there, I could do a better job, but the Vendée Globe has moved on with the foils and the intensity. So I'd need a bit of time to line up for that. But the double-handed sailing is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, and who knows where that will lead.
The obvious question, the Olympics in 2024?
Well, my fingers are crossed. That's a long way off, but that is my intention, and we'll see how I fare.
Good. And the Vendée Globe, is that a closed book now?
I never say round the world's a closed book. It has my heart, it's my commitment, my passion, and the Vendée Globe remains very special. But it's for me to go back out there, I would need a certain project, and I would also need the time to come back up to speed. And with the technology advancements and innovations that have happened, it would be a big step. So it'd be a big commitment, which requires a lot of money, which is not easy, as we know. But I'm enjoying it immensely by being part of it as a spectator this year.
Indeed, Dee. I'm sure there's many, many thousands of people would love to see you back out there, but enjoy your two-handed sailing. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully you'll join us again over the course of the race. Dee Caffari.
Thank you. I'd love to. Thanks, Andy.
So that's pretty much it for the day. Our guest tomorrow will be Antoine Mermod, the president of MOCA. If you have any questions for him, or indeed anything else, please do post them on Facebook, on Twitter, or indeed on Instagram. Join us tomorrow at the same time in the same place.